Hello, and welcome to Women in Business, where we interview entrepreneurs and senior managers and show you the strengths, successes, obstacles, and roadblocks women experience in business. Since I believe every person in business needs to be visible, I'd like to invite you to watch www.sob6, that's the number 6, tips.com, which will give you some valuable information should you get the call to be on radio or TV, which I think is extremely important. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at Gail Carson, that's Gayle, Gail Carson 13 at gmail.com, or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter.
We have a really interesting guest today on our Women in Business show. When I took a look at her picture, she doesn't look old enough to have all of these titles, but I'm going to read them to you anyway. Michelle Seiler Tucker is the founder and CEO of Seiler Tucker Incorporated. She holds an M and AMI Mergers and Acquisitions Master Intermediary title, as well as Certified Mergers and Acquisitions Professional, which is CM and AP. And she's a Certified Senior Business Analyst, CSBA. Michelle also owns many other businesses in several different industries, and as a 20-year veteran in the M&A industry, she's regarded as a leading authority on buying, selling, fixing, and growing businesses. She and her firm have sold over 1,000 businesses in almost every vertical and have a remarkable track record of success. Welcome, Michelle. I'm glad we finally got you.
Thank you so much.
You got a lot to tell our audience. So, as I said, you look like a baby, at least from your picture. So, you've got all these.
Well, thanks for the compliment. That's a great compliment.
Well, you've written 2 books on selling businesses, and you've got this second one out now. Why did you write your books?
Well, I wrote the books because I've been in this industry for a little over 20 years. My firm and I have sold over 1,000 companies. I specialize in buying, selling, fixing, growing companies. I wrote my first book in 2013, and then I wrote my third book, Exit Rich, between 2019 and 2020 because I started seeing that more and more businesses were going out of business, and I started seeing that more and more businesses will not sell. I mean, according to Steve Forbes, 8 out of 10 businesses don't sell for a multitude of reasons. And when I wrote Exit Rich in 2019, I learned some strong statistics. It used to be that 95% of startups, 1 to 5 years, would go out of business, but now it's completely flip-flopped. So now it's only 30% of those startups will actually go out of business. And out of 27.6 million companies, 70% of the businesses that have been in business 10 years or longer will go out of business. 70%. So you see how it's flip-flopped. It used to be startups were at great risk. Well, now,
you've been in business a long time. Do you think it's
No, this is way before. No.
Oh.
This is way before the pandemic. This was in 2019. There was no pandemic in 2019. But, you hear about the public stores all the time, Dr. Carson. You hear about Toys R Us went out of business. They were in business 70 years. J.C. Penney's, Montgomery Ward, Steinmart, Pier 1, GNC's closing down 1,500 locations. Godiva Chocolate
all
is
good
going out of
businesses.
business.
I mean, all businesses that had really good reputations, too. So
exactly. And can you imagine all the private small businesses you're not hearing about in the media that are dropping like flies? We're only hearing about the big public ones.
That's right. Well, so why? Well, let's go first with what are some of the biggest mistakes that you see business owners make, and what are the differences that a small business makes versus some of these, big box stores?
Sure. So the biggest mistakes that sellers make is they don't plan their exit. They don't really think about selling until a catastrophic event occurs, whether that's internal or external. So health issues, partner disputes, divorce, death, and then external could be COVID or hurricanes or something of that nature. And when you think about selling when a catastrophic event occurs, usually your business is trending downward and not doing as well. The best time to sell your business is when your business is doing really well and thriving. So nobody really plans their exit. The other big issue is that a lot of business owners have created a job rather than a business. And so when they're ready to sell their business, buyers don't want it because they want to buy a business, not a job. And buyers want to make sure that the business can run without the owner. So that's a huge mistake.
Well, that's a mistake for the small business. But what about, you mentioned J.C. Penney, you mentioned Toys R Us, you mentioned, those are national brands with stores all
Yep.
over the place. What
Yep.
are the mistakes they make?
Yep. So here's the mistakes they make. So the reason why these businesses are going out of business, 70% are going out of business, is because they stopped doing what I call AIM. AIM means AIM, always innovate and market. Toys R Us was in business for over 70 years. They did nothing differently. They did the same business the same way, kind of like Blockbuster. Blockbuster saw the writing on the wall. They saw Netflix had an opportunity to buy Netflix, and they sat back and did nothing, so therefore they went out of business. Business owners are not innovating. You're either growing or you're dying. And
Well, I
these
can
businesses,
understand that now. Yeah, innovation is so important. I mean, there's no question that innovation is, you can't rest on your laurels. You always have to be looking outward and seeing what's going on out there. So when you talk to people about buying a business, you say there are 5 different types of buyers. Who are they? I assume some are venture capitalists, some are entrepreneurs, some are rival businesses. But what are the 5 different types?
so this is how I classify them. There's 5 different types. 90% of buyers are first-time buyers. First-time buyers have never owned a business before, and they are leaving their jobs and buying businesses. They're typically using their retirement fund to do so. And then you have what we call private equity groups. Private equity groups buy businesses. They buy lots of businesses every year. They're probably the largest buyer's market, and they buy based on platforms or based on add-ons. So that's called private equity groups. And then you have competitors/strategics. So your competitors are your competition. Your strategics is a business that does similar, sells service and products similar to you, but not exactly. So those are strategics. Then you have serial entrepreneurs that are industry agnostic. They're more cash flow specific. And then we have turnaround specialists. Turnaround specialists go in and buy distressed assets. They buy them really cheap. They typically leverage the assets of the business to purchase the business. They turn around, fix it, turn around, and sell it for a profit. Those are the 5 types.
Wow. So I guess, one of the claims to fame that you have is that you are able to sell businesses for more than they're worth. How do you do that? I know it's a positioning factor, but there's got to be steps that lead to that.
Well, there's a lot of ways that I do that. First and foremost, I go in and look at the company's financials and normalize the financials, because when you look at someone's tax returns, they might be making $70,000 a year, but they're also probably running a lot of expenses, personal expenses, non-business expense items through the business, plus non-reoccurring items. So I go in and normalize the financials. So on paper, they might only be making $75,000, but when we're done, they might be making $500,000. That's number one. Number two, I also go in and look at the business's infrastructure, and I look to see what synergies they have built. And we talk about this in my book, Exit Rich, called the 6 Ps. The more synergies that a business owner has built, the more we're going to be able to sell their business for. For instance, branding. If the business, this is under proprietary, which is my 4th P, if a business is very well branded, we'll be able to sell their business for more, as long as the brand is still relevant in the mind of consumers. Nobody wants to pay anything for Blockbuster, right? So branding is huge. And then if they have trademarks, let's say they have federal trademarks in their company name and slogans and things of that nature, buyers will pay more for trademarks. The biggest mistake that business owners make is they go and start their business and they get a state trademark, but they never check the federal database to make sure they can get that federal trademark and actually use that company name. So a lot of times business owners will be in business for years and never protected their names. So all of a sudden they're going to receive a cease and desist letter, meaning that they have. What's that?
No, I didn't say anything.
Oh, meaning that they're going to have to stop using that company name. So it's really important to make sure you spend the $1,500 to get the federal trademarks. And then contracts are also very valuable when we sell businesses, especially manufacturing, distribution, franchise or contracts. But the most valuable are the client contracts. But the big mistake, another mistake the business owners make is they don't have the 2-sentence transferability clause in the contract. So 99% of all sales are asset sales, and if the contracts are not transferable, then that buyer either has to do a stock sale, which most buyers will not agree to a stock sale, or we're going to have to go talk to all the clients to get them to agree to a transition service agreement so that we can transfer those contracts over. So contracts are very, very valuable.
How long does it take you to get a business ready to sell? I mean, there's a lot of pieces that go into it, and so
there's a tremendous. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, for example, in none of my businesses did I ever have an exit strategy because I never really wanted to sell anything. I mean, I was perfectly happy doing what I was doing until I wasn't happy anymore. But I never thought of it, in an exit strategy kind of way. But I can see that this is really, do you run into a lot of objections from owners? I would think, they don't necessarily want to change.
Yeah, of course. So how long is it? There was a lot of questions in there that you just threw at me, so I'm going to try to unpack each one.
Okay.
But first and foremost, you're right. Business owners are really the biggest issue as far as how long it takes to sell a business, because we're always waiting on a business owner. We're waiting on business owners to send us the financials. Maybe they sent the P&Ls, but then they didn't send the tax returns, or they sent, P&Ls and tax returns, but didn't send balance sheets. So we're always waiting on the business owners, and then we have to walk them through the process of packaging their business and getting their business ready for sale. And so many business owners have the same mindset that you do, which is, I love what I do, I'm always going to do it until you don't want to do it anymore. But by then, it's typically too late to sell. So the most important thing is to really build up that asset, look at your business as not just something you like to do, not just as a job you like to do that you're happy with. Look at your business as the most valuable asset that you have, and plan for the sale of that most valuable asset so that when you're ready, you can sell that business for $1 million, $2 million, $3 million or more.
Yeah, I think that it's really interesting because I think sometimes people think their businesses are worth more than they are and sometimes less than they are. But you also say confidentiality is a key. How does that factor into things? Because you know about the rumors, I'm sure. Rumors fly.
Absolutely. And you're absolutely right about a lot of business owners, want more for their business. Most business owners are pretty unrealistic as far as what they want for their business because their number is not based upon the value of the business. So if they say I want $10 million, that's what they come up with because that's what they feel like they need to retire on, or that's what they need to pay for their daughter's weddings, or that's what they need. They have a need for it, but that doesn't mean that's what the value is of the business. And then very few people ever undervalue their business. But it's very important to get an advisor like myself. And the second part of your question was confidentiality. Confidentiality is the number one thing that will kill your business. And the reason for that is because people don't like change, right, Dr. Carson? Nobody likes change. So
right.
Employees get spooked that the new owner is going to come in and get rid of them or be difficult to deal with. Clients typically don't like it. Vendors don't like it. Nobody really likes it. The only person that likes to hear that a business is selling is the competitor because they like to say, oh, so-and-so's going out of business. Not that you're selling, but that you're going out of business. They like to twist it into whatever they can make it out to. So confidentiality is key. That's why it's really important to work with an advisor, M&A firm, in order to sell your business because it's very hard to sell your business and maintain confidentiality at the same time.
I would think so. I would certainly think so. So, you talk also about bidding wars. That's, I guess, the best position to be in. I don't know. But how do you create bidding wars?
Yeah, so the way that we create bidding wars is, number one, it has a lot to do with the business. It has a lot to do with the industry. But most importantly, it has to do with the EBITDA. The higher the EBITDA, the more buyers there are. So EBITDA is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization. And when we have businesses with an EBITDA of over $1 million, then we know we're going to have hundreds of buyers interested in that business. Because the three buyers I mentioned earlier, private equity groups, competitors slash strategics, and serial entrepreneurs, are all looking for businesses that have over $1 million in EBITDA. So we know we're going to have hundreds and hundreds of buyers. It's about finding the right buyers during the bidding war that are going to want to pay top dollar for some of these synergies that the business owner has created. So like we once sold a business, it was a manufacturing business, and they had 65% of their revenue tied up with the BP contract, and they were in oil manufacturing. 65%, that would scare most buyers, but it didn't scare this particular buyer. So we found a strategic that really wanted that BP contract because they have similar products and services, and they have been trying to get in the door at BP for years and could never get in the door. So they figured, well, if I buy this company, now we're in BP, we'll be able to get our other products there. So the business appraised for $9.8 million. The buyer outbid everybody else and paid $15 million for a business that appraised for $9.8 million. And by the way, he paid $15 million for 70%. So he paid 65% more than the appraisal price because he was buying a synergy. That one synergy was the BP contract. So we look at what buyers are looking for, how those synergies can catapult that buyer's business to the next level, and sometimes even a lot of times we'll work with our buyers to figure out how they can decrease overhead and increase EBITDA from the day they buy the company because they can take advantages of the economy of scales.
Well, I mean, there's also a gamble, though, because who says that once a business is sold, a contract is going to be, well, it probably has to be honored, but it may not have to be renewed.
Well, we did make sure that contract was going to be transferred over. It was a long-term contract. We made sure it was going to be transferred over to the buyer and the asset sell. So that was part of due diligence.
That's good. Yeah.
It's not really a gamble because in due diligence, we find out what contracts are transferable. If they're not transferable, we get them to be transferable. How long are they, etc. So, I mean, buying something is always a gamble, but you just want to mitigate your risk in due diligence, and that's what due diligence is for.
Well, that's true. Now, you also talk about you've got some different models. You've got the STGPS exit model. You have an ST6P methods to sell your business or a large profit. Do you want to tell us about the different strategies there?
Sure, love to. So the STGPS exit model is all about planning your exit from day one. The biggest mistake the business owners make is they don't think about selling their business. Just like you said, I never thought about selling my business. So we're really trying to change business owners' mindset to get them to realize you have an asset here that you should be able to sell. So the GPS exit model is all about, it's just like when you drive somewhere. What's the first thing you do? You pull out your phone, you go to Google Maps, and you plug in your destination, right? So for the GPS exit model, we're working with business owners to plug in their destination, figure out what their end game is, their desired sales price. So let's say a business owner says, okay, I want to sell my business for $15 million. Great, now we have a number. Whether you hit it or not is really irrelevant. We're just trying to get a business owner to start the plan. Then we can reverse engineer. So they got $15 million as their destination, their desired sales price. Now the GPS model needs to know, well, where are you starting from? What's your current location? You'd be surprised how many business owners never get their business evaluated. We get annual physical checkups to make sure our body's in good health. We take our car into the mechanic to make sure it gets a checkup and tune-up, but we never get a one-year business evaluation checkup. So business owners need to know every year what their business is worth because there are things that happen that can increase the valuation and decrease the valuation, just like COVID, So then we say, okay, starting at $15 million, you're worth $5 million today. What's the time frame? What time frame do you want to sell the business in? Let's say 10 years. Now we have the beginnings of a plan. We want to sell for $15 million. We're worth $5 million today. We're going to sell in 10 years. Who's our buyers going to be? Your buyers are either going to be a private equity group, a strategic/competitor, or a sophisticated entrepreneur. Then you want to know, okay, well, what's the financials need to look like to sell a $15 million company? So you need to know where your gross revenues need to be, but your EBITDA is probably going to have to be around $3 million to get a $15 million price tag, between $2 million to $3 million. Now you need to know, well, what's the business characteristics? What synergies, do I have to have? What's the buyer's criteria? Then you build your business with the 6 P's in mind, which builds a solid infrastructure. So now you actually have a plan versus driving around in circles, driving up and down the financial hills to wind up nowhere.
Wow. I hope everybody that's listening realizes the information that Michelle is handing to you, because those of you who are in business, you probably haven't thought this far ahead, or maybe she's scaring you. And if you are thinking about going into business, you're thinking, I don't want to go through all of that. So it's a double-edged sword. But Michelle, how did you get into this? I mean, you've been doing it for a number of years. You said 20 years. You've got all these certifications. What drew you to this?
Well, before this, I did franchise sales, franchise consultant, and franchise development, and I was selling new franchises. And I decided one day that I didn't want to just sell franchises because I had a lot of buyers asking me for existing businesses. So that's when I really transitioned from selling franchises and doing franchise consulting and franchise development into mergers and acquisitions. Plus, I've always been an entrepreneur, so I've owned lots of different businesses that I, too, have built to sell. So I'm just trying to get business owners to realize that your business is your most valuable asset, and let's make a plan. And when you're ready, that way you can sell your business for $15, $20 million. Here's what you don't want to have happen. I had a sweet little old lady call me 2 months ago and said, Michelle, I really need your help to sell my husband's business. He dropped dead from a heart attack and left me with a mountain of debt. So I started asking him all these questions, right? Come to find out, he has no employees. He really has no infrastructure. He never built a business. He's had a glorified job all these years. So there's nothing I can do for her. He doesn't have a business. He had a construction company. He had all subcontractors, and all the IP, all the intellectual property was stuck in his head. So I felt so bad for her, but there was nothing I could do because he didn't really build a business to sell. And I don't want to get those kind of calls again.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing you really got to think, oh, my gosh, how can I help this person? Well, we only have a few minutes left, Michelle. So how can people reach you? I don't know if you have a gift for anybody, but if you do, we certainly like to have you offer it. Where can people find you? How can people get in touch with you if they're interested?
Sure. And they can also go get my book. We're right in the middle. And we do have lots of offerings with the book, by the way. They can go buy the book right now at exitrichbook.com. That's exitrichbook.com. It's less expensive than Amazon. We're selling it for $24.79. If you order it today, you will receive the digital download today. Plus, we'll ship the hardcover to your doorstep. Shipping is included in that $24.79. Plus, you get a lifetime membership into the Exit Rich Book Club, where there's lots of video content of me going into all these different strategies and techniques. Plus, we have documents for your review and your download. So organizational charts, employee handbooks, non-competes, sample letter of intent, sample purchase agreements, sample due diligence, closing documents. These documents are worth over $25,000 that we're giving as part of the purchase of Exit Rich. Plus, you get a 30-day free membership into Club CEOs, which is an entrepreneurial group that I founded, where we do Q&A, we ask those tough questions, and we help business owners not just be successful, but really come out of the other side of this pandemic and be able to thrive and exit rich when they're ready.
Sounds good. So should they go there, or should they go to your website, or where?
They can go to exitrichbook.com. They can go to seilertucker.com as well. Sorry.
Which is Seiler, seilertucker.com. So exitrichbook.com or seilertucker.com. This has been incredible, Michelle. I just think
Thank you.
You are a walking encyclopedia. And you have so many things. I mean, you know what it is? This is a women in business show, and I'm so happy that there's a woman like you as the leader of the pack of how to do all of these things that seem mind-boggling to most people. And I am just thrilled that you're able to do this. And I'm going to ask you a question because we have just a few minutes left. Did you ever run into a problem with men?
I can't really say that I've ran into a problem with men. My industry is 98, 99% male dominated. I think the biggest challenge for me as a woman is sometimes getting on the stages, because in some of these masterminds and some of these, entrepreneurial stages, they are filled with men, and it seems to be a men's world. So even though mergers and acquisitions is a man's world, I've done very, very well. I've never really had an issue, but I find that, some of these masterminds and entrepreneur stages seem to cater to men and feature men more than they do women. And that's probably the biggest issue I've come up across. And I've spoken on many stages, but I see it time and time and time again, not just with me, but just with women in general. Yeah.
I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do. Well, thank you so much for being with us. And for you who are looking to find out where I am, you can go to spunkyoldbroad.com. My programs are there. My newsletter's there. My virtual SOB club is there. My courses are there. My products are there. Everything you want is at spunkyoldbroad.com. And, of course, we also have the YouTube channel. So love to see you in some of those places. And, Michelle, just keep doing what you're doing. You're doing such marvelous work, and I want to just keep complimenting you on the position that you hold and the fact that people come to you for solutions and they really are getting great benefit from working with you, and there's nothing better than that. So thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure. I love to come back and talk about the 6 Ps when we have more time.
Okay, sounds good.
Thank you, Dr. Carson.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to Women in Business. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you have any suggestions as to who you'd like me to have as a guest, just email me at gailcarson13@gmail.com. Be sure to check out www.sob6tips.com. And in the meantime, go to www.spunkyoldbroad.com to see the resources I have for you.